We'll begin now.
Okay.
All right. My name is Emma Donnelly with the Samuel Proctor Oral History Program, and I'm speaking virtually with Nick Moskowitz and April Williams on November 4th, 2020. Thank you for talking with me today. Could you please begin by introducing yourselves, your coffee shop, and your roles there?
Sure. My name's Nick Moskowitz. I'm the owner of Curia on the Drag in Gainesville, Florida. And with me also is April Williams, the general manager of Curia on the Drag.
Hi. Great. So I sort of have this preliminary question that I plan to ask everyone, just sort of to get a feel of your personal history with coffee. So I was wondering if you could both tell me, if you have one, what would your earliest memory of drinking coffee be?
So I didn't really drink a whole lot of coffee growing, when I came of age to actually be coffee drinking age. I think I started drinking it on vacation, maybe traveling in Europe or South America. I think it was a lot more of a kind of passive pastime there. And I think later on, coming back to the States, that's when I started drinking more of it. But yeah, I never really used it as a energy incentivizer or anything like that. It was more just a nice, passive thing to do, I think, when I had the time to relax and enjoy it. Yeah, that's my experience. April?
All right. I'm a little bit the same, actually. I grew up with a dad who drank a lot of coffee, but I personally didn't start drinking it until I was, I want to say, about 30. And I still only have maybe a cup a day. But I grew up in a household where that was the first thing my dad did in the morning. He'd have a pot of coffee, and then he'd have a pot of coffee at 3:00 in the afternoon. So that was very much built into our routine and schedule. But yeah, personally, I didn't start drinking it until I was 30, I think.
Thank you. How did you first get involved in the coffee business? Did it start with Curia on the Drag?
For me, it did, and it's actually, admittedly, kind of funny that the property where Curia is located was used by a prior business that I owned, a t-shirt printing business, and so we outgrew that property pretty quickly, and then moved to a larger facility. When we did that, we had the property and initially wanted to find some creative usage for it, which included an art gallery and some artist residencies. We had this great little 900 square foot building that I thought, would be great as a community space, and what better way to kind of present that than in the form of a coffee shop. So I think Curia was largely a result of the need at the time for more public spaces, I think, for the Gainesville community, rather than Gainesville needs more access to coffee, I think. So I think I was coming at it from the more social direction of what coffee houses are, or coffee shops are, rather than I guess the coffee aficionado sort of direction.
And what about you, April? How did you first get involved in the coffee business?
Well, really, it's been since I took over managing here. I have a background in restaurant management. I have a culinary degree, so I've worked with coffee for many years in baking, using them in desserts, and also serving it in a restaurant setting. But this is the first time I've really been in any kind of business that was focused on coffee. So it's been fun.
So what are your regular roles at Curia on the Drag? What's your daily or weekly involvement like?
Let April lead with that one, if you're okay with that, April.
Okay. Well, I manage the whole property here. We have a couple different businesses that are functioning on the property daily. So for me, I come in, I walk the property, I check in with our team to see what's going on. And for me, it's just placing orders, doing inventory, talking to guests, making sure things are fixed that break down, just kind of day-to-day operations for a pretty large property.
And my role has changed over time. I would say currently, I think I provide, April with maybe guidance on more sometimes the macro picture, but I'm not as involved with the day-to-day anymore. I'm living in South Florida more than half the time now, so my day-to-day access and my day-to-day enjoyment of Curia is not as much as it was, or I would like it to be. In the initial stages, I was very much involved with the planning, the design, menu, things of that nature. And then on the operations side, it always kind of depended on, talented and reliable people for that. And so, I think, when there's bigger picture, where are we going? What are we doing? And I think that largely pertains to the property as a whole. I think I have involvement with that, but as far as the day-to-day operations, I usually rely on April's expertise and knowledge, and also because she's on the ground to handle a lot of that.
Yep.
So first, we're going to sort of discuss what Curia on the Drag looked like and what the customer experience was like before the pandemic. So could you describe what Curia was like before the coronavirus pandemic, like the environment? How did people buy their coffee? Where did they enjoy it?
Sure. Once again, April, do you want to start with that one, or?
Sure. So I'd been here a little under a year when the pandemic hit. So I did have some basic experience of what was going on. So it was definitely a place where people would hang out. They would come do their studying. They'd meet with friends. They would get a cup of coffee and either sit out in the coffee shop or go outside and enjoy the property here. So the pandemic for us, obviously we shut the property down for, I think it was 8 weeks, and reopened in a very limited capacity with outdoor seating only. And it's actually, we've been lucky because our property here is 2.5 acres. So we've had the space to really let people safely social distance and still be able to run our business safely for our employees as well. So a lot of people still come through the property every day. They'll come into the shop, buy what they'd like, and then they go sit outside and kind of keep their distance from other people. So we were affected by having to close for 2 months, but I would say maybe the first month we reopened was a little quiet, but after that, we've pretty much gone back to regular business because we are lucky to have the outdoor space that we have.
So in what ways has the pandemic affected business, or is it pretty much the same?
I would say for us.
No, go ahead, April. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I would say for us specifically, we weren't really that affected other than having to close the property down for 2 months. We still haven't reopened all of our indoor spaces. We do have a bar on the property that's still closed at this point. But I would say for us, just having to close was a little rough, and then starting out a little slow. We did have to hire a lot of new employees when we reopened. But beyond that, our business has pretty much gone back to our normal level.
Yeah, it's hard to separate all the factors that have affected our business, because I think Gainesville is so tethered to the university and the student body, and the ebb and flow of kind of their presence. I think, there's the actual coronavirus itself and its effect, but then just the seasonal effect of the students being in town versus not also, I think, has had an impact. And, I think it's fortuitous in our planning that we sort of put together and designed so much outdoor seating that it made us, a pretty good place to kind of turn to when things started opening up. So that really helped us out.
Are the items purchased by customers the same as before, or have they changed?
They are pretty much the same. We have a bakery that operates here on the property, and so we sell their baked goods in the coffee shop. And I would say it's been pretty much the same mix of sales, the same coffee beverages. We've seen a little bit of an increase in sales recently. with the weather cooling off, more people being outside. But other than that, the items that we're selling are the same as what we were selling before.
You spoke on it a little bit before, but how has the pandemic affected customers' experiences at the shop? So, where they're, how they're purchasing their coffee and their baked goods, and like where they're enjoying it.
For us, there has been a little bit of change with that. So we are still requiring that people wear masks when they come into the shop to order. We've gone to a cashless system where they just use a credit card to pay for things. We don't actually touch their credit card. They do it themselves. We have a window that we put up on our service counter. So there's not quite the same interaction, I would say. And we're not letting people kind of hang out in the shop anymore. But we have like an indoor and an outdoor. So they come in, they order, they go outside, they wait for their order in our pickup window. And then most people tend to hang out here. They'll just find a picnic table or a table under our pergola, and they'll just sit with their friends and have their meeting or their conversation or whatever they want to do.
How have customers reacted to new safety measures?
They've been pretty good with it so far. It was a little, I think, weird to get used to at first when we reopened, just for all of us. But we very rarely have an issue where somebody doesn't respect the mask guidelines and that sort of thing. And other than that, people are very respectful of what we're doing as far as safety practices.
Yeah. And sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. Yeah, I think we've made it. I think April and everyone else's sort of planning and the systems that have been put in place have made it pretty easy to follow. There's really, because we're not servicing, so many people indoors, I think there's less of a situation where it could become contentious, where we're having to enforce so many rules. I mean, in the outdoor space, largely we're letting people determine, their comfort level. If they want to stay on the property and sit, that's fine. There's, all the tables and seating is so far apart that it's really, it's for them to make that decision. But yeah, just the limited service, there's a very easily, very simply laid out structure for ordering and receiving the product that I think, that's been really important for minimizing the amount of any displeasurable experiences with the customer base. And, Gainesville's, I think, a very community oriented town. I don't think all places are like that. So that it makes it a lot easier as well. Like, everybody knows that we're doing our best, and, I think they respect that. So that's been good.
And my last question is, how has the pandemic affected employee procedures?
It has definitely increased the cleaning that we do. We already would clean regularly, but now we've implemented very frequent sanitizing of door handles, counters, bathrooms, things like that. Whereas before it would be every couple hours we'd wipe things down, or we'd clean the bathroom twice a day. Now it's happening every 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how busy we are, where they're walking around and cleaning all of those surfaces that are touched by people throughout the day. So it has added a little bit of work to the staff, but they all seem fine with it. We haven't had any issues with that so far.
Well, it's okay if not, but is there anything else you would like to add that we haven't discussed so far today?
I don't think there's anything extra other than that. I think that operating a local coffee shop, a local business where you service a clientele, that part of the business model is for people to have a place to congregate and socialize. It's been a great way to kind of observe like the pandemic and the world kind of changing from that lens, and to see how I think it's a great barometer for how the rest of the country, if not the world, is dealing with things. And I think a snapshot of how Curia's managed through the pandemic is kind of indicative of a larger experience that I think everybody's had. So it's been good. in that respect.
Yes. Yeah, it has been good. We were a little concerned, obviously reopening, as to, how the public would react and what our business would look like. But the community here has been very supportive of what we're doing, very generous with our staff. And I think overall it's been a good thing for us. And we also have the space to provide, an outdoor area where people can come and socialize without feeling like they're stuck in an apartment or that they can't see their friends and things like that. So I think it's been very positive.
Well, thank you both so much for taking the time to talk with me today.
Absolutely.
All right, you guys have a good one.
Thanks, Emma.
Thanks, Emma.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.